It's the OCG Fam Show. Viewer questions with Scott Ostrander, Part 2. Hey there, Bob from Oregon, Wisconsin. It's cold out here. Bundled up. Bob from Oregon, Wisconsin Gardener. Welcome to the OCG Fam Show to you, my YouTube buddies. What's going on? Let me know in the comments. And speaking of the comments, we're doing Part 2 of the viewer questions episode today with answers to your comments. So watch this, and I'll talk to you after. Aaron Tucker. Bob, I get so much out of these videos, but I'm wondering how much of it... How much of what should I adding when I use BK as a root drench? I've heard from many people that BK would hurt your plants if you didn't use it the correct way. By the way, Nectar is the only thing I will ever use in my garden. I love this stuff. So you would just use the feeding chart and...
I would use the feeding chart, but I'd start at half strength or even quarter strength. If
that's
new to everything.
Yeah.
No, like normal food, everything.
Yeah.
But with Chaos, I would just recommend starting, if you haven't used it and you really are cautious, start at quarter strength. Add a little more every feeding until you get to your comfort zone.
So would you say that if you were starting from scratch, you might just go ahead and use the BK, the Bloom Chaos, and you're going to be fine? Or alternatively, that maybe you might grow once and without it, and then add that into your thing. But either way, you think you'd be fine.
I spent years growing without it. So,
yeah,
you can do it both ways. I just found it to be a really fun tool to make things faster, bigger, stronger, stinkier, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where, again, we've killed more plants than you've killed. I guarantee it with this stuff. And just in the name of science and figuring out how it works. So with anything that's new to you, start slow and ramp up. Find your sweet spot, because we all don't have the same sweet spot.
Okay.
I don't know if that even answered the question, but I mean, it's the same thing. Just ease in.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to harm anything. I think a lot of people put more fear on Chaos than it's worth, but...
That's what I was getting at, is that you might, it might be interesting to do it once without and then once with to kind of get a feel for the difference, but I don't know that you're going to notice the difference because of all the other factors involved in the thing, that maybe you should just dive in and do the thing and A, start slow, or B, just start fast and, hope for the best, because it's not the end of the world if you...
No, you're going to have an ugly plant for one round and you
Yeah.
just have to push it through to the end of flowering. But the nice thing is it won't ever, it's very rare will it kill your plant.
Yeah. So I guess that's the thing, is you're not going to get this kind of I guess you could if you really mess up, but it's going to be a degree of not quite as good as it could have been, not the plant crushing down to,
You're not going to go in tomorrow and have it be brown.
Yeah.
I've been in too many grows that you come in and you're like, oh, your pumps didn't turn on last night. Oh, everything's dead.
Yeah.
That's devastating.
Yeah.
But too much Chaos today means tomorrow you do this, then you just add water and, die and hurt for a week by itself, and then usually corrects itself.
I think a lot of times it's just fun to talk about. It's the boogeyman. It's
it is definitely.
It's the thing.
It's the coronavirus.
Yeah.
It's the coronavirus of the garden.
King says, "Hi Bob. Quick question. It's not a quick question. It's pretty long here.
Yeah. No, this guy, quick question. This guy, here's a paragraph. Here's my quick question.
I think when people say quick question, what they're saying is, hang on, because I'm going to talk for a long time. I'll get to the point.
Yeah.
About runoff and number 4 soil. I've been using Nectar for a while, but this has been my first run with the number 4 soil. The water holding capacity of this stuff is pretty incredible. I'm used to seeing 10% runoff when watering 3 to 4 gallons of liquid into about 35 gallons of soil total. With the number 4, it seems I can go as high as 5 gallons of feed and still not see any runoff whatsoever. My plants generally look happy at the end of the week 7, but I'm seeing more fade and general fall colors on the fan leaves than I ever have before. On one plant, the fade even gets into the sugar leaves a bit, which is a little worrisome. How important is watering to the point of runoff, at least periodically? Should I hit them with a crazy 8 to 10 gallons just to get a little runoff as I enter flush ripening phase? Thanks. Keep up the great work.
I personally like to see runoff in that last week to 10 days because I'm just trying to get excess out of the root zone. The fade, I'd love to see a picture of your concern on the fade, because most people are striving for just that, where they get a nice color change, they get it all the way into the fruit, the sugar content increases. I would definitely send me a picture of that for concern pieces. But for the runoff, I would just that last 10 days, the initial, I'd like to have a bunch of runoff, and then outside of that, I don't.
what would lead to having a swampy soil? Other factors
Well, I
other
didn't
than
say swampy.
No, but I guess no. I'm saying yeah. Well, I mean, if you're not getting
we're not putting bark. So a lot of times they came from a bark-based soil or really poorly built soil. So you get this runoff because nothing's absorbing internally because it's not peat, it's not cocoa, it's forced humus or chopped bark.
So if you were using 3 gallons before because you were getting runoff, in this you would water a little less. I mean, you would go for a soil moisture goal, not a gallon goal.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I go to, my pots are saturated, and the same thing. What I found is in the earlier stages, I don't water that heavy because I don't want to oversaturate that pot. And I'm trying to make those roots develop faster. But at the end, I can get, I'm so root bound, there's no more soil left. So there is no water retention because I'm literally hydroponically feeding them because they've eaten everything in there.
So what you're saying is that you would water...
You may want to even look at stepping down. If you're having this issue in your week 7, I don't know if you're 8, 9, 10 weeks, or you're in 7 weeks flower, 7 weeks grow. But if you're an 8-week genetic and you're in 7 weeks and this is all occurring, you may be in too big of a pot. So when you're done, I would look at that root zone, and if you have more soil than root, then step down 2 to 3 gallons. If you're in a 25, go to 20. Then you might have a different situation. A lot of times people just plant in too big of a pot for their size, their space, and they never utilize all the soil, so it just becomes a waste.
Oh, I gotcha. So if there's lots and lots of roots in there, will you see more runoff?
Oh yeah, because there's no soil retention. There's no moisture retention in the soil because the soil's gone.
So if you overwatered at the start, you wouldn't have as much roots at the end, and you'd still be blocked up at the end.
Well, yeah, because you still have so much organic matter absorbing that water that,
Okay.
So less in the beginning will create more at the end.
Want to do another question? Okay. About 100 more questions.
No, there's only 6 more.
Okay.
And we're at 12:10.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Trey Arcioni. Hey Bob, I've been running using Nectar a little over a year now and love it. I saw a previous episode, February 11, 2019, where you added all the newts, pH, and then added Bloom Chaos. On the chart it says add everything down the line and then pH, which I do, and I have no problem.
Is that contradicting yourself?
What?
No, not that.
Oh, me.
Yeah, because in your video you do it one way and then in the feeding schedule it's done another way.
Possibly.
It doesn't.
Or we can agree to disagree.
Well, no, we can go back and watch that episode and then go look at the feeding schedule. They're not the same.
No.
But what Bob did in that schedule, or in his video, was mix everything up, put the Olympus up, which is the limestone calcium, that gets your pH correct, and because chaos doesn't change your pH drastically, he added it at the end so the reaction starts then, and then he waters his plants. You're going to get more of the reaction in the root zone because that reaction is post the calcium. Now, what he's saying is on our feeding schedule, it says mix this, chaos, then pH it. You can do that way too, as long as you're not doing it for 4 days of mixing. So, the amount of time, it's literally, because you still have all that calcium from the Demeters, the Tritons, the Herc, everything else. You put the chaos in, and then the Olympus, for the amount of Olympus, if you have to put in like 4 ounces of Olympus, you might want to put the chaos in after that. But if it's only like 1 to 2 teaspoons, it's about this much of a difference.
It's not a big deal either way.
Either way. No. Unless you're doing 4-ounce corrections, then that's a lot of calcium that I wouldn't put on top of chaos. I'd rather put chaos on top of it.
I didn't do it because of that. I just did it because that's how you told me to do it.
Yeah.
Raz Kane. Hey Bob. Wait a second. Is that the same one? Where are we at? No, okay. Is there 2 questions here from me? See, I've lost the trail here. We're just gonna go down. Yeah, let's do this one. This will be fun. Hey Bob and Scott, got a question about Aphrodite's extraction and Persephone's palate. If I'm looking for bag appeal and they put it in a bag?
No, that's how we used to all have to buy it in a bag. Yeah, we didn't have fancy little stores with glass jars with fake names on them. We actually had to go talk to the guy down the street and get this many in a bag.
If I'm looking for bag appeal and the terpiest cannabis I can get, at what point should I start using these products and how much per gallon? What's the point of diminishing return? And is it a waste to add right before watering in compost teas? I also heard people not using Persephone's palette after week 5 or 6 in flowering because of the overpowering taste of the flower. Can you elaborate on this? One last thing. Can I get a Nectar Assassin hoodie yet? LOL. Oh, someone asked about the hoodie. If you want a hoodie, you have to have you hand it to him.
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
You'll know when you get one.
You'll know when you get one.
The hard part on this is, I mean, again, it
He
comes
did say
down
LOL.
to, huh?
He did say LOL.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It's an opinion question.
Well, yeah, and how much is too much? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, like it's salt. How much is, these people are like, oh, this is salty, and I'm
Well,
like,
when you're cooking a fillet on the grill, how much is too much?
yeah.
You know, my uncle destroys food by making them into charcoal briquettes, and then that's ketchup.
Yeah.
And that's like,
And he likes it.
yeah, but there should
God
be a
bless him.
crime. And so at some point there is a diminishing return on your applications,
Yeah.
but where is that? That's a hard one to say. I've pushed at levels that are ridiculous. I've seen customers push at ridiculous levels. I think once you get above 2 ounces per gallon of both of those, there's no point.
Uh-huh.
But I know guys who do more.
Yeah.
So I can't really honestly answer that. But those would be the two that create that higher terpene profile, the higher trichome production. Balance that with some chaos, you get more oil being produced internally in the plant. Ideally, to start those, there was a great post online from one of our better customers who was talking about how Aphrodite works, how carbon works in the plant, how these sucrose and these digested sugars work as far as energy and creating the energy in the plant to want to draw and produce more. So Aphrodite's at the very beginning stages of bloom, you're not enhancing the flavors yet, but you're enhancing the energy to then create that down the... You're basically laying out the palette to make sure that the finish is going to be amazing. You can go as soon or as late as like week 3 to enhance both of those. So week 3 to week 6 or week 7, that's going to create the enhancement. You're going to get a different profile. But where's the best time? Or where? I mean, honestly, I like Aphrodite's at the very beginning because it creates that whole energy level for the plant for the entire bloom cycle.
To be able to utilize whatever it's getting.
Yeah, and
It's a healthier, happier plant.
just more aggressive. So it's a tough question. And I'd have to know you by real name and see you for the other question. But no offense, I just don't know email names very well. But if I knew him from a store I've been to,
Probably
I know
so.
what he has, and I've smoked something he's done, I'm sure we could probably discuss something differently. But you'll have to find me in public. Or
Yeah.
make such
Don't.
a stink. Don't track me down. I am easily armed.
Hey, your house. Hey, how you doing? Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. No. This not that deal.
Yeah, no.
Michael JW. Hey, Bob. I've been using Nectar Sample Kit on my autos now. I started out with amended soil through veg and pre-flower, but now that I'm in flower, I've been using a feed microbe tea, feed microbe tea using 5 milliliters of Zeus once a week on my feed days, and using 15 milliliters of Hurt, 10 millimeters of Demeters, 15 milliliters of Athenas, and 5 millimeters of Chaos 2 times a week per gallon of water. I use a half of a gallon per plant every day, and half every day and a half. Do you think I'm pushing too hard with these autos, and I'm not flushing with the amounts I'm using, thinking the micro tea solved the problem for me? Am I wrong to think this? This is too complicated for me. I'm lost.
Again, this is one of those. Just how do the plants look? I mean, if they're gorgeous, stunning, and aggressively growing, then no, you're hitting them right on the head. But if they're all burnt up and the tips are all bent down, or the hairs are all crusty and you're only in the 3rd week of bloom, then you probably overdid it. But again, I have one guy that got the feeding schedule we sent out for those autos, and he's like, well, that's cute, but you know what? This plant needs a lot more food to get to start to finish all at once. So he doubled it and crushed it. So it's your genetics. There's so many pieces. If your plants look good with this model, next round try half of that. If they start to struggle, then go back to that because they like that. And then the next time go double that and see what happens. But if they're happy with what you got going and your finished product is where it's at and you documented this, I'd probably not fix what's not broke.
Good answer. I don't know.
It's a tough one.
So the theme of the show is you could try that.
Well,
no.
It's hard. It's saying, hey, is that almond butter free of peanuts for sure? You know, if you're gonna die from trying it, I probably wouldn't try it. But if it's if you don't have the allergy, give it a shot. Let me know if there's peanuts in there. It's a hard one because there's so many variables that contribute to the success of this, and I don't want to be the guy that says, if you do this, you're going to be 100%. We've never been the marketing company that says, this is going to do this for you, guaranteed, because there's so many ways to skin this cat.
Okay. Yeah, people, I think there's a comment, all these bottles, but it's like, there's all these bottles so you can try stuff, don't use all of these.
No, I'll be the first
use
one.
this one, and then, try, because it's to give you some flexibility with it, not to suggest that.
Control of it. I mean, here's the control. You get to dial every knob and make it, when you, remember a Pioneer amplifier in your, Pontiac Firebird, 1976. You're like, I'm gonna get traveling bass, and you didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We were literally going, you know what I mean?
Yes, just like
this is an amp.
Yeah,
you're literally looking at an equalizer on your dashboard in your Pontiac, and you're trying to tweak your terpenes, your trichomes, your yield, your health.
With limited feedback.
Yeah. And with a little tiny stock speaker.
So
it's
it's for fun. Just have some fun and try some stuff.
You don't need all the products, and we really encourage you not to buy every one of our products. It's the most anti-marketing marketing company on the planet. We use the 6 things, and everything else is like, I use it for this, I use it for that. But for the most part, I would say, I would love to see pictures of his, too, just to see where we're at.
Vince Piercy, hello! So you mentioned 8 tablespoons of Herculean Harvest. I did mention, I think that's the one video where how far can you push? And we're like, 8. Yeah. So, hello. So you mentioned 8 tablespoons of Herculean Harvest. Is that per gallon, right?
It was.
Not my chart. Must be the old one. The advanced says to use 2 to 4 tablespoons per gallon in late flower. Thanks. So that's the chart. And
the original chart said 2, 4, 6, 8 on it. Which basically, when we did that, what we were trying to tell people is, this is the one you can push.
Yes.
So you can either be at 2 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or 7 or 2 or 1. Yeah, I mean, it's literally... It was there's only this much room in that box to type in anything. So 2, 4, 6, 8 fit rather than this one you can push very hard if you really know what you're doing. Yeah. So this one can be accepted more. Yes, that's per gallon, and no, I wouldn't do that with every plant I have in my grow. No. 4 to 6 is kind of my max out, like regular max out. There's some genetics that love that 8, but it's rare, and a lot of people don't like growing that genetic because of how hungry it is. You have to really want the genetic, like that flavor, that tone.
Not just like I want to grow the most, but I want to grow this particular thing.
Right, because I love the way it makes me feel, the way it smells, the way it tastes. I don't get the yield from it, but it eats a lot of this, and this is why. So there's a lot of us that have a few plants that we just grow on the side to go, all right, this is the one for my head, and then this one's one for the market. Yeah. Not that we condone illegal selling of anything. Everything should go through the government.
Yeah.
And taxed heavily.
You got to pay your fair share. You have to pay your fair share. And you have to keep them informed of what's going on.
Absolutely.
For our benefit.
And safety.
Safety. Yeah. That's the important thing. Hey, they're lowering the speed limit to 20 miles an hour in Eugene.
I'm moving. I can't. Are you serious? No, they're not. What?
It's already got 20. Yeah.
Where?
It's going to be everywhere, I guess. I read it in the newspaper. I was online.
Another reason not to move to Oregon, right there.
Yep.
20.
Because they say if they do 20, maybe people will keep it to 30.
No, now I'm going to do 50. And I'm going to take my muffler off. Straight piping that shit straight through the neighborhood. 20. That's insulting.
Travis Torelli. Hey there, Bobo. Bobo. Bobo is what I call myself when I'm being stern on myself. Like, Bobo, get your shit together. It's a little insight into me.
Could be a movie.
Hey there, Bobo. I haven't asked a question in ages, but I have one for the Big Kahuna. I've been running GSC for about
Scout cookies
for about 7 years, and Nectar for the Gods for about 5 years. I know people talk about yield with this combo, but I've got stellar results for a long time, pushing a gram a watt on good runs. I've always used about 3/4 feed for meat and potatoes of newts and ideal plant response. This round, they seem extra hungry without explosive growth. I'm using a new soil, Royal Gold Basement Mix, and I have taken out Medusa from the feed and doubled up on Gaia. I have feed just Gaia for a year or so with great results, but figured I'd mention it as a variable. It's day 23 or so in flower, feeding Gaia, Athena, Demeter's Kraken, Pegasus, Herc, and Zeus. Slurry's coming out 20 to 100 after heavy feeds. My question is, can genetics become that much hungrier over years? Or perhaps could it be this new soil that I've never used? Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work. Keep your water structured and your flowers clean. So, more likely it's Travis Trelly.
Do you know him?
I know he's been in the comments for a long time and asked a bunch of good questions.
That's interesting with that. Keep your water structured.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, he's been watching the show and asking questions for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of answered it with the, and then I tried in the new soil, and then now I'm hungry. But that's it. There's nothing wrong with Royal Gold and the company and the products, and it's like one of the few soils I'd say use that one if you can't find 4.
So more likely something like that than a drift in
it's
genetics.
Just there for and I won't say that there isn't genetic drift, because that's very real, and I think a lot of people will see more and more of it, but for it to go that drastic in one round and the only real variable change is soil, then I would say it's time to ramp your feedings up with this type of potting soil, because they don't have the same food charge as your last potting soil. Because if you have a backup food charge, let's say our number 4 would have a food charge, the basement mix may not, or if it's mild, then that will run out really fast with your nutrient program, where ours would back you up a little bit longer. And I'm not saying that I know exactly what's in their soil, but 20 to 100 parts per million, that's telling me there's not a lot built into it as a backup food source. It's a good mix. It's very neutral. They use good inputs. But it may not be enough nutrient backup. The other concept you could do there is throw some one-shot in the basement, or whatever the basement mix. Throw a little one-shot in there for your backup food source, and then maintain your same recipe to see how that reacts. But that 20 to 100 is guaranteed why you are losing.
Yeah.
Because whatever you're feeding them, they've ate all of it, and they've left behind nothing.
Good answer. Minmo Grosho. Hey, Bob. Have a question after the last episode. Scott said that if you fed your plants full strength right off the bad, that by flower...
Right off the
they're gonna... right out the bat. Okay, see? I'm not reading good today. They're gonna be... I think I had too much coffee this morning, to be frank.
Frank left for Vegas.
Frank, what's he doing in Vegas?
Whatever, the basketball tournament stuff.
Basketball?
With
the shorty pants. Huh? With the shorty pants. They wear short pants.
What other basketball is that?
No,
you mean the long pants basketball or the short pants?
No, I'm saying that the basketball.
You mean the hockey stick basketball, or is that the football basketball?
I'm saying that basketball is the sport where they wear the short pants.
Unless they're outside and they're playing in the street, then they're probably wearing sweatpants.
Yeah.
Now he's going to watch the women's college
playoffs,
Pac-12.
Gotcha. My dad's big into the basketball too.
That chick is amazing.
I've never even heard of her. I didn't follow the thing, and she's the biggest deal in Oregon sports ever. Is what they say
for women.
We're gonna move on.
They actually sold out their last women's. They used to give away tickets to that just to show up, and they'd still only put 100 people in seats. They sold out their last game in town.
Wow,
that's a big stadium.
Oh yeah, no, it's a serious place. I've been there a couple times.
She's going pro.
That's very cool.
She's the only collegiate player to talk at Kobe's.
Really? Yeah. I just don't. I don't keep up.
I don't care. You just happen to be slapped in my face with stupid feed.
I gotcha.
Anyway, Minmo.
Hey, Bob. Have a question after the last episode. Scott said that if you fed your plants full strength right off the bat, that by flower they're going to expect that food and maybe even more. My question is, I had plants, if I had two plants identical in every way, if one was eating twice as much, would I see a difference? Is there a benefit for making a plant a heavy feeder? That is a good question.
Well, I mean, depends on the genetics again, but if it's eating more, the potential of yield is more.
Yeah.
So if it's eating less, then the potential of yield is less. So that's what people see, is if they're feeding them more, they usually get a bigger outcome. I'd love to see it. Like feed one at twice the strength and one at half the strength and see what happens.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Tim Baker. Hey, Bob. Was wondering if foliar feeding bloom chaos would cause stress if the plant wasn't buffered with Herc or to weak genetics and start shooting nanners. Nanners? Thanks.
Nanners.
Nanners.
Hermaphrodite.
Oh.
Well, the plant hermaphrodite. I mean, any stressor could create a hermaphrodism in a plant, but usually genetics are
by far the
predetermined hermaphrodites rather than stressing a plant out to become a hermaphrodite. So it's usually more of the genetics and the environmental piece of that. Very rarely, I mean, I've had people claim that our nutrients have given them hermaphrodites, and then they find that their windows have been wide open at noon when the lights go off, and they're trying to figure out their situation. But it's mostly genetics that are creating these issues rather than a nutrient influx or a food stressor. The food stressor is going to show deficiencies or toxicities more than it's going to show you. I mean, it won't set the plant into a genetic hermaphrodism condition. So I doubt it highly.
No, I agree. I have no opinion. I'm just here I'm a presenter. I just present the questions.
I want your job.
I mean, I try, okay, but I could have sleepwalked through my whole life. People just throw money at me and just let me do what I do. It's an amazing thing.
You're welcome.
Well, no, thank you. Seriously. But not just you. I mean, it's been my whole life. I just kind of just going along like Mr. Magoo.
You have good parents. They've helped make sure you haven't starved.
Several times.
Yeah.
Although.
I like Jeff.
Yeah. Roberto Alvarez. Question. I'm doing an outside grow this summer. Can I dig holes and add number 4 soil now, or should I wait?
You can, depending on, where you're located. If you were living up in the Olympic Forest in Washington, I probably wouldn't put it down now because the leaching of the rain would probably reduce a lot of the nutrition that we built in. If you're down in the Sun Belt or in the South, then you could probably get going now, get things going. There's no benefit. We've already composted the soil, so the nutrients are ready to go for the planting, and they're mild, so there's no benefit of it, but you could, as long as you don't look like a huge rain forecast. If you're trying to save time for the spring and you've got a pretty
you got a lot going on and you want okay.
It won't hurt anything, but if you have a rainy season, you're trying to get ahead of the game, then put a tarp or something, or even ground cover it to prevent the leaching out of the nutrition.
Does the sun affect it? I mean, if
the
you're
top layers,
but just a little bit. I mean, if you're
it's
like
not penetrating 6 feet,
no. Okay.
But top inch of soil will always be torched by sun. And then you might want to, if you have no moisture from now till May or April, whenever you're planting, then you have to go out there and mist it every once in a while to keep the moisture content nice so it doesn't become hydrophobic by summer.
Oh!
Because if there's nothing in there and there's nothing watering and it's just a big hole of dirt, then that could become hydrophobic if you have no moisture. But excess moisture will just make it bad soil. It'll just drain out the nutrients.
So when you dig the hole, do you dig a hole about what the pot would be if you had put it in there? I mean, do you need to go way wider, or do you?
Well, I've been doing. You don't just.
Not just right where it is, obviously, but
cannabis wants to grow this way. Hemp wants to grow this way. So if you're growing cannabis, I like to grow, a 1 to 2 foot deep, but go out 3 to 4 feet square.
Okay.
That's more efficient for a cannabis plant than just digging a deep hole. They don't want to go deep; they want to go wide.
Okay. Good advice. Stay Road 84. I wish this came out yesterday morning. This is about one of the videos, I suppose. I maybe wouldn't have done what I did. Any opinions about using Bigfoot and Cultured Biologics EZT together? I did a T from the unofficial Bible using GM, AA, Pegasus, AE, and HH with Bigfoot concentrate and EZT veg. Overkill? So,
harmless.
Mania, Mania, Pegasus. He did a bunch of stuff.
Well, he went off of the compost tea on one of the manuals, and then added the two. His redundancy question, or
is about using the Bigfoot and the.
Yeah, no, I mean, all you did was double up on the mycorrhizaspores, and outside of that, I mean, you probably could have left the Bigfoot out for this one dose. You could add the Bigfoot in on your next application by itself.
So the value add on the Bigfoot is the stuff they put around it, but it all just washes out in the tea, and it's still the mycorrhiza there.
Well, I mean, it was say with easy tea, you just add it into water, shaking it, and water it in. So they're just taking, all you did was add more spores of fungus to make sure that you had a good fungal connection. So overkill, I wouldn't say overkill. Redundant, maybe a little redundant.
Okay.
But you didn't hurt anything, I'm sure.
No, yeah. Brian Florzik. I'm sorry if this question has been asked already. Don't recall hearing anything on the topic. I've got plants in multiple stages of life requiring different ratios of nutrients, and feed early in the AM before I head to work. It's a lot to get done that early in the morning. Can I mix all of the line minus the BK in flowering plants and leave it bubbling in my reservoir overnight like I would with any other line? Obviously, it would require a good stir before feeding. Seems like we've covered that before.
Yeah, I mean, you can. It's just not going to be as efficient and as reactive and as quick. And even without the KS in there, it's still the calcium bond that's reacting the longer it sits. One thing, because the main question here is not, can I pre-mix it for the simplicity of getting all my work done at night, so when I go into the morning, all I got to do is stir it and feed.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't if you like what the results you've been seeing from the way you've been doing it, I wouldn't do that only because you slow down the reaction to the plant showing the response to the feed. What I have done and seen done is people will pre-measure all of it. You buy a crap load of those little $1, buy a 12-pack of $1
little measuring cups or whatever, yeah.
And then you pre-measure all your stuff, so it's just sitting out in its own component
before
with your water ready. So in the morning you just go in and you go pH it and then go. That would be the most efficient and reactive way for the plant to be able to.
And you should have a pretty close idea on your pH too after you've done it enough times.
Well, yeah. If I measure the same one on Monday and I'm not going to change my schedule for 2 weeks, that pH isn't changing when I mix those same exact components up. So I just go, all right, I need 25 mils of 25 mils of Olympus to pH correct this recipe.
Right.
Well, then I'll start at 22. Every time, and I just shoot that in, stir it all up, check it, and then I put 4 more drops or 6 more drops or the variance.
So you're still checking it, but you're pretty close.
Yeah.
You get okay. Okay. Good answer.
But pre-measuring would be better than pre-mixing, if that makes sense.
So you would have.
We never even put up that video, did we? The one where we had them all.
I think we did it. Yeah, it was.
It was so bad though. I don't think you ever.
Oh
did.
no, not that one.
Down here.
Yeah, I think we did it later on. We did one.
Because
it didn't work.
Yeah, it wasn't working. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, I did not.
It wasn't enough to work. We need to do like a 15
bigger thing. Yeah, then you had to leave to go somewhere.
Probably poop.
No, like a different state or something. Oh. You were going on a trip.
That.
TV time, Mom. Hey, it's been a minute since we talked. Got a question. She's out in, I think, Chicago. She got that outdoor garden. She did the video. Remember that video?
Did I see it?
I think you saw it. She did some videos on the YouTubes, and she has a nice little, big brick type house thing in the city, but she got a big garden back there, and she had all kinds of stuff. And then she had like a little back porch where she had some stuff growing inside and everything. Had a cool little setup.
To see it.
Yeah. Got a question that I can't remember if you've done a video on or find it in searches. I was wondering how long is too long to have a bottle sitting. I know everyone uses Nectar religiously every feeding, but let's just say there's a bottle sitting in the back of the shelf that's been there for a while. How long is too long for an open bottle to be used safely? You're the best. Thanks for everything. Look forward to your next video. P.S. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to you too.
A little late.
Well,
when we got to this.
Yeah, a little late. But,
Happy Valentine's 2021.
There you go.
If you're watching it now.
Yeah.
We didn't get back to her fast enough.
No, we're too slow. It was only a
They're
couple
too
weeks
slow.
ago.
So I have bottles that have been sitting in the back of my shelf for quite some time, and they still are functioning and they still work. The main thing is if they've been stored correctly and stored, out of direct sunlight, out of direct huge temperature swings. I mean, I've had open bottles sit in my cupboards for 2 to 3 years, no problems. I've had stuff in my shed for 5 years with no problems.
I would assume the fuller the better too. I mean, if you got just a little bit at the bottom, there's airspace. The air is the issue.
Air and exposure to air and consistently being open and closed will cause more problems than not. But if you open it up and it doesn't smell like ethanol or alcohol or something you should be drinking through a sock, then you're probably still fine. Or if it's not swelling. The swelling is usually it fermenting and breaking down. And in that case, it's usually starting to spoil. It'd still probably be safe, but for safety reasons, I'd probably say time to replace it.
Okay.
But at least at least a year, if not a couple, for safety.
Okay. So he says Raven Sabah here, who is a newer viewer, to ask a bunch of questions, but there's no question there. So, hey, Raven, sorry we missed your question. We're going to get it next time.
Pasted it onto the other one.
Yep. So, we'll go on to T-Bell. Sorry, Raven. We'll get it. This is T-Bell. He says, can you use Nectar in a drip system? If so, how? About to open a commercial grow and just wondering.
Yeah, you'd have to email. There's a lot of pieces to that, and we're 20 minutes from not being able to do that question.
So, but
I have people that put it through drip.
If you're in a commercial setup, is there advantages to automating it? I mean, you almost have to, right? I mean, and you can't automate this, or you
can automate it. We have many farms that have automated it, and it's not dosatron ready and easy to do. But once you figure out the method behind it, it's not that hard to do, and it takes more mechanical. We're not going with these super fine lines, these little tiny circuits, all this stuff that makes salt-based nutrients do really well because they can all be operating in these little quarter-inch lines.
Micro-dosed.
But I have a 12-acre farm down in southern Oregon that runs it all off of 5,000-gallon cisterns and on a 5-horsepower pump and in zones. And the way he did it was with 30 psi regulators that control 140 drip heads per regulator. So that's 20 pots, 400 gallons. Each one's getting 6 emitter heads per, but he's doing just open-ended quarter-inch drip line.
So, but if anyone is doing any kind of automated thing, they should just email you. Work with them.
Yeah, we work with a few companies that make dosers for these. They make controllers for these. It's still a hands-on product, and the whole point of our product line is that your employees, your growers are out in the field monitoring the plants as they're feeding the plants or mixing up the nutrients while they're in the garden so that they're seeing what's happening in the garden versus I'm going to be the third grower here today turning on these pumps to feed a 100,000 square foot warehouse, which I have no idea what's happening in the 20,000 square feet in the middle where the mildew's starting and the bugs have begun to take over the middle. So by the time you go to harvest, half your crop's already eaten up because you got one grower who automated. You can fully automate it. The downfall is you have to just think outside the box. And there's ways to do it, and you have to email me, and we have to go from there. Yeah, but just doing like dosatrons, it's I have guys who use dosatrons, and Heroes of the Farm was using dosatrons with this, and that's not the issue. The issue was just making sure somebody's there to maintain and look over the whole system to make sure it's not clogging.
I got you, but that's really the issue with even these other kinds of synthetic things is. It still goes bad.
Oh, it can, but it's way less likely when you're so thin.
Yeah.
And when everything's settling to the bottom and they're pulling 2 inches from the bottom, then it's not an issue. With ours, it's so thick. The first thing you have to do is, for a siphon inject or something, an injector, you have to. I mean, if you don't have a stirricane, pre-stirring that into a pure liquid,
it's not gonna.
No, it's gonna go. Okay, we're gonna start by trying to suck this pudding out of the bottom. That's done. So it's. There's definitely ways to do it.
Yeah.
And what we like to do is tailor to the farms and say, all right, what's your operation? What are you looking at doing? What's your setup going to be? Here, we make products for the commercial market. We just don't have them, we just take that gum out of the herb. We take the gum out of some of these products to make them considerably thinner, so they can be moved through the system a lot more efficiently. But we also find that takes out a little. I mean, for the craft grower, the guy that the hobby guy that we're really going after, who's trying to get the nuances. That gum is one of those foods that are really important to us. For a commercial market, they're like, oh, we don't really care.
Yeah,
we're trying to get a lot of the consistency there.
It's still better over the whole over what they would have done if they,
They find that they get really close to what they were used to in their closet, but on a grand scale by using the one with the less gum in it. But yeah, we love talking about it. We love chatting about it. Or, I mean, discussing it with the growers. But it's like, what's going to work for this farm isn't going to work for the next farm. If you're on tables or you're in, I mean, there's so many questions that have to be asked, and then you can get some solutions from there. So
that's a show.
It's a show.
Okay.
It's a show.
Okay, what do you think of that? Did that answer your questions? Do you have any follow-up questions based on that? Put them in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll get back to the show. I love you. The OCG Fam Show. It's pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCG Fam Show. See you tomorrow.